down in
Get $50 instantly when you play $5. Presented by Prize Picks. Welcome to Light Years, an emergency edition of Light Years. Tommy, can you believe it? The Warriors made a trade? What year are we in?
Incredible. And they did it at the first possible moment. I applaud Mike and the rest of the front office for getting this done as quickly as they did. It was an obvious need. We were talking about it for a couple weeks leading up to the trade eligible day for all the guys that were signed this summer. And Schroder, he's a good fit, and we'll see how it plays out on the floor. But it's a move that I like, and it was very simple, and they got it done very quickly.
Yeah, part of me is I just want to reflect on this before we talk about Schroder, how we think he'll fit. If you're listening to this, we will be live after the Mavericks game as well. We just thought it made sense to separate the two. They were decisive. Yeah. I feel like the number one critique and kind of overwhelming criticism that not just you, me, Andy, I feel like the overall fan base has had is kind of just overly conservative and slow with every move they make. And this is the opposite. Look, it's not a superstar move, but it's we have real ball handling issues, particularly since Melton went down. Mm-hmm. We have no shot creation outside of Steph. We're kind of in a free fall. And we need to get someone who can just help us out immediately right now, even if they're not the long-term answer, just someone who can help us right now. And Dennis Schroder's having a great season. Yeah. He's a journeyman. He's not a perfect player, but he definitely can help this team. And they went out there, they got it done. They found a trade partner who probably was looking to offload a player so that they could tank a little bit. So it's it's one of those things where it's just decisiveness. It's kind of okay, you need to get worse immediately. You probably want to get rid of this journeyman vet because he's currently helping you too much. Yep. We need that guy. Let's not overcomplicate this. What can we do to sweeten this deal? Let's get it done. Call it a day. The type of move that they just have not made for the last 4 years, really. So
yeah, and it's shrewd in the sense of obviously Dennis Schroder doesn't make this team a title contender, but what it does is it helps stop the bleeding a little bit. That's probably the theory behind it is, hey, we got to do something right now, or else we're going to continue this free fall down the standings, because that's essentially what's been happening the past month or so. So yeah, from that standpoint, it's okay, we get more shot creation. We get a guy who can get downhill. We get a guy who's a good free throw shooter. We get a guy who can guard the ball. And now there's not so much pressure on Steph to create everything. And that's the theory behind this. I think it's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. But like you said, the front office deserves to be applauded for being decisive for once and making something happen instead of just waiting till the last moment and then nothing happens and they start putting out BS PR about, oh, nobody wants to deal with us. We're the Warriors type of thing. So it's a good move. I have nothing bad to say about it. I commend them for doing what they did.
100%. They're, tonight's going to be the 25th game of the season. They're 14-10 going into the Mavericks game. If you're listening to this afterwards, we'll see what happens. So game 25, I looked it up. Trade deadline is game 50. They, as presently constructed post Melton injury, they would have been so far out of it if they didn't make this move. I don't know where they land, but I do feel a little better that they can stabilize, probably not win at a 10-2 pace, but also not lose at a 2-8 pace. So something where it's hey, get me to the trade deadline and be 27-20. Be above 500, be out of the play-in, be in that 4 or 5 range where, you can credibly look at yourself in the face and be I know exactly what I need. It would go into it. When I say the trade deadline, by the way, the realistic thing is, the Cam Johnsons, the the Jimmy Butlers, the Brandon Ingrams. Like I don't know which other big name guys are going to get moved. Like, but those guys probably aren't getting moved until like the 3rd or 4th week of January. So you do need to get 20 more games into the season, and you can't go like I said, like you can't go 4-16 over the next 20 and expect ownership to sign off on that trade. Well, that's a different conversation. Yeah.
No, it's this will help them, I think, stay in the top 6, which is so big. You don't want to be in that play-in situation. It's just too messy. But like you said, Cam Johnson and Jimmy Butler or whoever else kind of becomes available, their current teams are going to want to drive up that value. They're not going to deal a guy like that who they know can net them probably multiple first-round picks. That guy's not getting traded on December 15th. This Schroder deal partially got done because it's just second-round picks, essentially. You're swapping an expiring for an expiring, and it's second-round picks. The Nets probably weren't getting much more than that for Schroder, but they will get a lot for Cam. And Miami get a lot for Jimmy. So those type of moves are, like you said, January, maybe early February moves. They're not December moves, but they made, the 1 December move. And no, it's exciting. It's really exciting. It's a guy that I think, like I said, we brought up a couple times as a target, and I think he's going to fit very, very well. So
let's talk about who Dennis Schroder is. I got more to get to, but we haven't really talked about who he is as a player. Like right now, I'm pulling up his stats. He's averaging 18 and 6. He'd be the second leading scorer on the Warriors. I don't know who's going to score more points, him or Wiggins, but I do think he's going to be, averaging over 15 points per game on this team, even though he's a point guard. To your point, great free throw shooter, currently shooting 89%, but like for his career, 84%. Shooting probably not a 40% three-point shooter, although he's shooting that right now. But like, I'll give the floor to you. Describe Dennis Schroder. If I'd never watched him play, what would you say?
Incredibly quick. One of the quickest guards in the league with the ball. Tight handle. Good passer, not a great passer. Can get downhill at will. And then, like you said, has been shooting the three very well this year. And I don't think he's a 40% three-point shooter either. But you can't just leave him wide open. And he can take some off the dribble. This kind of just popped into my head. There's and he's not as good as this guy, but there's like some Tony Parker light vibes with just his ability
on his best day. Yes. You're like, he looks like that. Yeah.
100%. He gets into the paint absolutely at will. He does have a nice little in between floater game. He finishes well at the rim. He does draw fouls pretty well for a small guard. Not great, but he's shooting 3.5 free throws a game. That's not terrible. It's not one free throw a game. So yeah, I just think he's going to apply rim pressure, which this team has really, really, really struggled to do all season long, outside of really Kuminga. And that's just still pretty hit or miss because of his inconsistencies. So yeah, I mean, he's somebody that I've always liked. And I honestly like that another contending style team did not get him because he has always given Steph fits defensively as much as anybody can, right? Steph's still going to get his points, but Dennis is an absolute pest on that end of the floor. Super quick, 6'9", 6'10" wingspan, will get some steals, but he is not scared to pressure the ball. And this team needs another guy like that without Melton.
Yeah, I mean, Melton's best attribute is he's one of the best point of attack defenders in the league. He's better than Dennis Schroder at that, but Schroder's well above average for a guard in terms of pressuring the ball, harassing you. They're going to play two small guards, but one of them can actually credibly guard the ball. And if we're honest, Steph is generally hiding on who the worst defender is because he has to carry the entire offense. If this team, let's run through matchups. If they're playing OKC, now you have someone who can guard. So you're going to put Wiggins on one of Shea or Jalen Williams. You're going to put Schroder on the other one. And then Steph gets to hang out on Lou Dort. Exactly. Where it's like he's a spot up shooter. He just has to play smart defense on him. And that makes a lot of sense. Whereas without this acquisition, it's Podz, it's Lindy Waters, it's never Moses Moody because he doesn't get on the floor, but you know what I'm saying? It's a lot of guys who don't have any sort of defensive advantage. So I think it works. And I'm not actually too bothered by him being 6'1", because if you just look at the direction of the league, pretty much everyone's playing 2 6'3" guards. And with his wingspan, he falls in that 6'3" guard range. And all the successful teams, one of those guards is for sure more of a defense first guy. And Schroder, I wouldn't call him a full on defense first guy, but he's certainly more of a defensive guard than anyone else who's currently healthy on this roster.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's 6'1", probably about 180. Melton is only 6'2". Melton's a little bit wider framed. I want to say he's about 200 pounds bigger through like his chest, his shoulders, stuff like that. Yeah, he's just wider. But no, Dennis has I want to say 6'9" wingspan. So like you play bigger than 6'1" if your wingspan is 6'9". So it's not super. I don't love it in terms of like the size issue, but I don't think it's not terrible. Would be my opinion, is because he does have long arms and he is not afraid to guard the ball at all. He wants to annoy people. I think watching him and Draymond together defensively is going to be a lot of fun. Like Dennis is one of those guys that you hate when he's not on your team, but when he's on your team, you love him. He's that type of player.
Yeah. I mean, we're probably seeing his debut on Thursday, and perfect game. Ja Morant. That's the type of player who you sign Melton to guard Ja.
Yep.
You lost Melton. Now you got Schroder. He's going to draw that assignment. Makes total sense. He's got under Ja's skin in the past. I mean, it's what he does. He gets under Steph's skin, which is like the ultimate compliment. So huge help on that front. And then offensively, I think it's just a no-brainer. Like, I've never seen Steph play with a worse offensive team than this team, in the sense of just no shot creation around him. He's just getting mugged at all times. I thought that Houston NBA Cup game was actually the perfect example where all he could do was take a quick pull-up three because they had no chance of creating offense otherwise. So, is Schroder the perfect second option next to him? No, but just a huge upgrade given what they have.
I do think the Houston game raised the sense of urgency. And like, obviously the games leading up to that too, but just watching how that game ended, not being able to get shots off, the offense just absolutely bogging down at the end. I think that really cemented it, where it's like, we cannot wait to do this. We will continue to lose games in the same fashion over and over and over again if we don't address this issue right now. And the nice thing about Dennis is, like, in theory, like, you hope he makes Buddy's life easier, because Buddy's gone through like some up and down struggles recently because he's probably handling the ball too much. He's not shooting it as well, which always hurts. Shooters are always going to go through peaks and valleys with just their efficiency. But a guy like Dennis also you would hope he makes Buddy better, makes Wiggins better, makes Kuminga better, because he's taking a lot of the ball handling duties, and then those guys can just focus on scoring instead of like having to create shots, because none of those guys are good at that. So you're hoping that it makes everybody's life a lot easier with this type of move.
Yeah. I liken it to when a team signs a middle of the rotation pitcher in baseball. Like, are you expecting that player to put you over the top? No, you're expecting that player to keep you afloat so everything doesn't fall apart because, you lost one pitcher here or there. And maybe at the deadline, you go in there and you get a guy who could truly make a difference. But end of the day, the season's long and someone has to fucking eat some innings.
Absolutely. No, Dennis, you hope that Dennis can make it so Steph's not so exhausted at the end of games. And so now Steph can really just go close, because he hasn't been having to handle the ball every possession for 35 minutes or however long he's been on the floor. So it really is like a middle reliever type of situation. Absolutely.
Yeah. Guys, before we move on, let me tell you about Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get a real money sports action. With over 10 million members, billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible for all. You just have to pick more or less on two players for a shot to win up to 200x your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Make your holidays bigger and brighter with Prize Picks, the best place to get in a real money sports action. Guys, simple. Download the app, use the code LIGHTYEARS, deposit $5, get $50 instantly. So literally they're paying you $45 just for signing up and putting that first in. So code LIGHTYEARS, get 50 instantly when you play your first $5. Prize Picks, run your game.
All right, now it's Manscaped time. Chairman Pro, with the holidays creeping up faster than your aunt's fruitcake recipe, I've got something way better to share with you. If you want to look sharp for all those festive gatherings and maybe finally win that Best Cream at Family Dinner award, check out the latest masterpiece from Manscaped, the Chairman Pro Electric Foil Shaver. Trust me, it's like Rudolph for your face, guiding you to a smooth, irritation-free shave. Head over to manscaped.com and join the over 11 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using the code LIGHTYEARS for 20% off plus free shipping. I didn't end up trimming the beard as much as I thought I was going to for this holiday party yesterday on Saturday, but I did, trim up just the underneath part of the beard a little bit. And, I used that skin safe 4-blade foil trimmer and it just had me looking right. So get the Chairman Pro today and experience a shave that is as smooth as you deserve. Get 20% off plus free shipping when you use the code LIGHTYEARS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping when you use the code LIGHTYEARS at manscaped.com.
So I want to give some credit here because I saw a couple people throw out a couple interesting takes on the old Twitter machine, and I don't want to steal credit, So from our guy Nate Duncan, and I agree with him, but this is one of the first things I thought of when I saw the trade too. Warriors trade for Dennis Schroder is an admission that they just aren't getting what they hoped for offensively from Brandon Pajemski this season. Are you buying this take?
1,000,000%. This is, it's a reflection on Podz. It's the expectations were too high. He's not ready for this. We have to do something because the guy that we wanted him to be and need him to be this season is not who he's been. So yeah, it's an absolute admission. And it, just once again shows that they overvalued a current asset because it's in the building and they believe that they can sprinkle magic fairy dust on whatever player they bring into the building and say, oh yeah, we're going to make this guy a superstar. Lacob just says, oh, he's,
he
we
was
think
the
he's
best.
an all-star level player, like he wants to speak into existence. That's not how it works.
It is kind of perfect because Podz is undoubtedly the best rookie this team has had, maybe since Harrison Barnes and Draymond Green. Actually, yeah, no, he's definitely the best rookie they've had in well over a decade. And they were so excited about it. And to your point, it's like head over skis. Like, we think he'd be an all-star. It's like, maybe. Yeah, if he turns into like a knockdown shooter, but like he's so far away from.
Can he average?
Yeah, exactly. And instead we got the complete opposite, which is actually he went through a shooting slump. And right now I'm like wondering if he can even shoot the ball at all. Right. So, it's looking a little better, but it's like one of those things where it's like, good rookie year, more upside than maybe the public thought he had, but you're jumping the gun thinking in year 2 he's going to be something that, when the reality of the situation is, I could see him being a dude like year 4, year 5,
Yeah.
But I could also see it going the other way. So yeah, to Nate's point, at least they acted decisively. At least there wasn't the whole like, we're going to just keep going down this path. The other part of it is like, does it make them reconsider Podz as a point guard? Because that's all. Because like he started playing better when they started putting him back to like a connector role as a secondary ball handler. Shot got better, all those things. So it's like now he doesn't have to play the point guard, and maybe he's not. Maybe that's the reality of it. Maybe he's just because he has the handle to potentially be a point guard and vision to potentially be a point guard doesn't mean he's actually a point guard.
Yeah, because one of the jobs of a point guard is you have to constantly create shots, usually against one of the better defenders on the team, and he's not good at that yet. And I think I said this on the last podcast, maybe a couple times ago. One of the nice things for Podz last year, he was always next to Steph or he was always next to Chris Paul, and so like he was really just a connector type, like you said. Like I think the range of outcomes for me now has changed of what he could be. I was definitely more in the camp of like he's going to be very good this year, and it's like kind of upward trajectory from here. But now I'm like maybe he's just TJ McConnell. Which is a fine player. TJ is very valuable for the Pacers. Before I'm thinking he might be Kyle Lowry, but now it's like, he might just be TJ McConnell. He might just be a backup guard, which is fine, but that's not enough to, that's not an all-star. Let's put it like that.
It's funny to your Kyle Lowry point, because I still am not willing to sell on Podz.
Yeah.
When did Kyle Lowry become Kyle Lowry?
Yeah, it's a really good point. Not until he had been multiple places. He was in Houston, he was in a couple other spots, then he gets to Toronto. Kind of like a
he made his first. Yeah, he made his first All-Star game at 28.
Right, exactly.
I would say it's about 26-ish was when it started clicking for him as like an everyday starter. Mm-hmm. Which, again, to your point, like I'm not saying it's a given Podz will get there in any capacity, and right now it's looking like a real leap of faith. Mm-hmm. But like, if you're looking at him to be the guy who can over-exceed kind of physical limitations, that certainly doesn't happen year 2.
Yeah, exactly. Are we saying that guards take longer to develop? We were told bigs take longer to develop. Is it actually guards that take longer to develop?
Yeah,
but no.
And like,
go ahead.
No, I had nothing to say. Go for it.
No, but like, Kyle Lowry, like you said, became an all-star at 28. Chauncey Billups, very similar thing. Kind of physical limitations, not the fastest, not the
Mhm.
quickest, not the most athletic, but strong, really smart. But that can take time because the skill set has to really mature. Like you have to be very sure in your shot. You have to be such
Yeah.
a smart passer. You can't turn the ball over if you have like those physical limitations, and you're not going to be a super explosive scorer. And then the shot has to develop, obviously. So like, but it can take time for those things to come into place, and he is clearly not even close to that yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's no other way around that at this point. The other take I saw, which is a little controversial, but I want to call it out so we're not just pure Kool-Aid. From Jeremiah Engelman, the creator of Real Plus Minus, one of like the OGs of NBA public stat analytics. Very smart guy. Won't say anything otherwise. I feel like the fact that Schroeder is his 8th team in all but 8 years should have given the Warriors a clue in regards to how teams that just acquired him feel about him.
I think Dennis can probably be a little bit of a headache. That's not just like conjecture. There's like, I think the guy has a bit of an ego. He can be a bit of an asshole, for lack of a better term, but you need guys like that.
Sure.
Like he can be like, he's a dog but like there's things that come with that. You would hope that the culture that's like set by Steph and Draymond and Kerr, like you would hope that kind of like, I could see him really like thriving in a super competitive environment with a guy like Draymond, because Dennis has the same mentality, right? You don't want too many of those guys because then it's just like your locker room becomes a mess. But we'll see. I do think this is a good point. Dennis is definitely not the easiest teammate to have from what I've heard. But you'd hope a winning environment changes that a little bit, but you never really know. Look, you got to take risks sometimes. Like scared money don't make money, right? Like you have to take risks sometimes, and they're not in a spot where they can just be complacent and be conservative and not take a little bit of a risk. This is a slightly risky move in terms of potential like locker room stuff and culture, but
moderate risk at best.
Yeah, moderate. Exactly. He's not like, he's not going to blow up the locker room, but there's a little bit of a risk here, which is fine. I'm okay with it. Like, let's make the team better at the end of the day.
I think you said what I felt, which was beggars can't be choosers. Yeah, there's a reason he was attainable for a couple second round picks on the first day of players becoming available.
Yep.
If he was prime Tony Parker, he'd have a max contract and no one would have moved off of him to begin with. Like, yeah, he's a little mercurial. He can run a little hot. He can run a little hot personality wise, and his play can go hot and cold, particularly the shooting. Like he's shooting the ball really well. He's probably more of a mid to low 30% 3-point shooter most years. And it is what it is. When I look at it, I think specifically for what the Warriors lack, his skill set really helps. So I think it actually probably makes life easier for everyone because he's like needed, It's like he's been on some teams where like they have 3 guys who can all handle the ball and he wants to handle the ball more so. And they're like, Chris Paul's better than you, dude. Keep going down the list. Like we got LeBron. We don't need you doing this all the time. But on the Warriors, Steph likes to play off ball in general. And quite frankly, they just don't have anyone else who handles the ball. So it kind of works out pretty well with him.
I think kind of touching on the OKC part is key, though. He thrived in kind of that 3-guard setup with Chris Paul and SGA. I want to say he might have, I don't think he won 6 Man of the Year, but I know he was in the running that year. And that's kind of the role you envision him, right? He's not your primary handler, but he is a guy that is essentially the second handler. And he's not great at playing off other guys and like playing off ball all the time, but he can do it. It isn't in his skill set. So I really do think it's a fantastic basketball fit, and it addresses so many current needs on this roster. Like it's just
I will say on a different level, it's infuriating having Steph Curry, who's by far the best off-ball superstar in the league, and you just can't find like enough ball handling to go with him. Like part of like Steph's gift is making it so you can play ball dominant players in lineup combinations that traditionally you can't. Like traditionally you get 2 guys who are superstars. It's like, they both want the ball in their hands and it's hard to make it work. You never have that issue with Steph. But anyway, that's a different conversation. Maybe we'll get to that one later this year.
It's not, it's never going to be like a my turn, your turn situation with Steph. Like it's just going to kind of flow. Right. And so that's, Dennis can look, I'm tired of having to run an intricate set with 1 minute left in the game just to
Hey.
try to get Kuminga a layup. Like, give me somebody who can
Dude,
just
get
get the ball.
anyone a shot. Like,
Yeah.
forget Kuminga. Anyone. Like 18 screens to get anyone a look.
Right. And I mean, that was one of the last plays of that Rockets game when I'm on Tuesday was like they tried to run this intricate action to get Kuminga like a cut to the rim and it was kind of open, but Draymond had to make a really difficult pass and he threw it out of bounds. Where it's like, hey, Dennis, just go get a paint touch and kick it out to Buddy or Steph. You know what I mean? Like make somebody else's life easier. They don't have anybody that does that, and he does that. And he's officially going to play on Thursday. By the way, he's not available tonight, but from what Slater wrote up, they're going to have a couple days of practice. It's actually a perfect time to trade for him because they have like 3 days of practice after this, which is so rare in an NBA season. So they can integrate him a little bit.
That's the other part. Maybe that put urgency on it too, just because it's like you get this mini break with the NBA Cup, as much as you're going to see all season.
Yep.
Before we move on, let's get to this.
What can you tell us about the
Here's Shams.
Golden State Warriors?
Malika, sources tell me the Warriors have reached an agreement to go acquire Dennis Schroder from the Brooklyn Nets for 3 second-round draft picks. Schroder is someone Stephen Curry, Steve Kerr, Draymond Green all advocated for. They have a lot of respect for him. They're excited about this addition. They've played against him in those Team USA Germany matches in the playoffs over the years. And when you think about it for Schroder, he has been in one of his best seasons in the NBA so far, a career year from three-point range. He immediately becomes the Warriors' second leading scorer. And this doesn't keep the Warriors outside the big game hunting. I'm told they remain active in the hunt for a star player, and they can aggregate Schroder's contract in a bigger move later this season.
Schroder has been averaging
So the last part's what I really wanted to talk about, and it's not just Shams who said this. Mark Stein and Jake Fisher, who broke this, also talked about it. And it's they're putting it out there for a reason that we're not done. This does not stop us from making a bigger move. We could even move Schroder if we have to make a bigger move. Just putting the nose out there that the Warriors are serious and they want to make a bigger move. And we'll see if they do. But I did find it really interesting that they made a point to say that in all reporting here. It's like, hey, they talked about Cam Johnson. Price is too high right now, apparently, they're still really in on Jimmy Butler, like all this stuff, which just kind of tells me that, them swinging a move right now, I can finally take them serious again on this sort of stuff. Like from a mental, health standpoint, I'm like, oh my God, they did it, But then the second part of it is they're letting everyone know, we're not done. We didn't just go get a cute backup point guard who can help us a little bit and keep us afloat so we can make the play-in. They have aspirations of making additions to this roster to really compete, which, look, I like hearing it.
Absolutely. No, it's very encouraging. We've been waiting so long for them to just do something. Like their biggest, I guess the Chris Paul trade happened, but that was like a salary dump for lack of.
That was an optionality move. That was for optionality, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. But what else have they really done in the past couple of years? Wiseman for GP2. It's just all been very uninspiring. This is the first slightly inspiring
trades are
trade.
hard.
God. This is the first slightly inspiring trade they've made in a long time. And I'd be shocked if they aggregated his salary to go get somebody else, unless it's just a bad fit and it's not working. I don't think that would happen. They tend not to move off the guys that quickly after acquiring them. But yeah, I mean, it is encouraging to hear that they're still big game hunting. I do still think there's a chance they go get Cam Johnson. Obviously, the Jimmy stuff is very real. He wants out. That Miami probably doesn't want to lose him for nothing. So there's a lot.
That's
of
also a much tougher move contract wise. It's just you look at it, I'm like, man, Miami's moving him at the deadline one way or another. I don't know if it's the Warriors, but it doesn't look like there's an extension coming on that road, right?
No, I think that's headed for a divorce for sure. Yeah,
and it's one of those things where it's if nothing else, I wonder if part of this is also to reassure Steph. He signed an extension. We all know he wants to retire a Warrior, but we also know he hasn't been happy with the direction of the team for a couple of years, and he shouldn't be, for obvious reasons. So a lot of this is just kind of letting everyone know it's like, hey man, we made a move as quick as we could to get some help, and this is not the end of it. If Dennis is amazing, we'll keep him. If the fit doesn't work, we'll move him. Nothing is stopping us. I really do think they're sending the message that essentially, if you're not Steph Curry, you should be renting. You know, it's kind of that doesn't mean they want to trade everyone, and certain guys are more valuable than other guys, but nobody other than number 30 is untouchable to this front
And
office right now.
Number 23.
Yeah. Number 23 is like 99% untouchable.
Yeah.
But I do think a lot of it's like reinforcing that, like, this is their team, and I know you're playing well, but if we can upgrade you, we will. That doesn't mean we will just for the sake of it, but nobody, like, the Kumbaya Carrera, I think, is a little over, where everyone is like an important piece. Like, GP2, we love you, but we got to throw you in to make something happen. We'll invite you to the Christmas party, like that type. That's kind of the vibe they're putting out there, which is like a little, maybe it's the Bob Myers, like they moved on from that era, but it does feel a little more like they're going to try to do what they have to do. And no one other than 30 is untouchable.
Yeah. They're just going to be a little bit more cutthroat. We don't have a bleeding heart Bob leading the way anymore. I think Dunleavy, I think Dunleavy just a little bit more like pragmatic in that sense, and like he doesn't.
I mean, he's been traded. Once you've been traded, you have no sympathy for anyone else, right? So
yeah, and not only has he been traded, like he grew up around the NBA. His dad, longtime NBA coach. So like this is just the world he lives in, and he knows it's a business. Like at the end of the day, this is a business. And nobody besides Steph, and like I said, Draymond as well is untouchable here. So it's very encouraging. And I just hope like something actually comes to fruition of it instead of like getting to the deadline. It's like, oh, everybody costs too much. We couldn't get anything else done. But
you know, I almost want to give Mike credit for this because Podz was his draft pick and he looked like a genius last year. Picked him at 19, was one of the 5 or 6 best rookies in the league last year. Looked like a steal, And if you're a GM, like you feel like the man when you make that kind of pick. Like that's how you make your name. He's like, I know what I'm talking about. I'll pick this guy. The next year, everything's pretty much gone wrong for Podz. And he's not sitting here with his ego going, give him time. I know what I'm talking about. That sort of thing. He's just like, no, need to make a move right now because this isn't working. To your point, that's only something that someone who's been around this for 35 years as a kid, watched their dad get put under pressure, people get fired and traded, like understand that it's a bottom line business does. And it's kind of, honestly, it's a necessary ingredient for this team. I will say, like, everything was super kumbaya for many years, and it's great when you assemble that. But I'll end it with this. As Steve says, this is the real NBA.
No, it's easy to say when you're winning 73 games in a season. Oh, like we love all these guys, but that's not the reality they live in anymore. Like, and Mike also doesn't have like the resume that Bob had to back him up. So like, as a GM, you're always kind of auditioning for other GM jobs in one way or another. And it seems like at this point so far into his tenure, Mike's pretty like well thought about in the league. I think The Athletic released a piece last week where executives ranked other executives and Warriors front office came in the top 10. And part of the quote was from an anonymous exec was that, this is not Bob Myers thing. This is a Mike Dunleavy thing. People in the league really believe that he has the chops to do this job. But I think he's just going to be generally more aggressive because he doesn't have that resume to fall back on, of like building a championship team. He wants to do it on his own. But you do have to like emotionally detach from a lot of these decisions to get that done sometimes. And I don't think Mike is scared to do that.
Me neither. I'm excited. Guys, if you're watching, we will be back after the Mavs Warriors game. And if you want to chime in, I'll throw the link out there. We'll take some live calls.
Love it. Get the goons in.